Yo, yo, yo! Welcome to another episode of the Digital and Social Media Sports Podcast. I am your host, Neil Horowitz. You can find me on Twitter. Yes, I'm calling it Twitter forever. At NJH287. Also on LinkedIn, where I post more content. The website is dsmsports.net. And follow the podcast on your preferred podcast platform. But let's get into it, because we got a fantastic show for you guys today. Really timely, as we are right in the middle, depending on when you're listening to this, in the Women's World Cup, the FIFA Women's World Cup. And this is a soccer-themed podcast, football for everyone else outside the United States. It's not called soccer. My guest on the podcast today is Aviv Levy. He is currently a social media host for AFC Ajax, a Dutch football club. He is also the founder and head of Double Tap, an agency that works with teams, leagues, organizations, and individuals on social media content and strategy. We talk about his time spent with FC Barcelona, really becoming a leader, a pioneer in the idea of a social media host, as he played out in their Instagram stories, among other channels over the years. We also talk about his time doing content capture and hosting for the FIFA World Cup. Just so many good insights, good stories, talking about players, content strategy. So you're really going to enjoy this. I sure did, this interview with Aviv Levy. And we really talk about what it means to build that content strategy and who you're trying to serve, focusing on the channel that you're on, focusing on how to build trust with players and understanding who wants to play around with you, who doesn't, simple ways to drive engagement with fans, with players, what it's like to run a global social platform, whether we're talking about FC Barcelona and their global reach, or the World Cup, of course, with its global reach, and how that affects the content you create, the references you make, the memes, the pop culture references. We talk about the power of mobile content, and why it has a special power over the traditional broadcast highlight. We also talk about Aviv's work with Fabrizio Romano, who is a powerhouse in the football world, kind of, as I say in the interview, the Woj or the Adam Schefter of the soccer world, around the world. Every scoop, every news item, and how Fabrizio runs his strategy, and how he just commands so much impressions, so many views across platforms, whether it's Twitter, YouTube, growing on TikTok as well. Just packed with information. This interview was so great. So here he is, Aviv Levy. Right back on the podcast with today's guest, and I'm so psyched to chat with him. I have seen him performing. I've been following his career, and he just does so much impressive stuff. My guest on the podcast today is Aviv Levy. He is the founder of Double Tap. And welcome to the podcast today, Aviv.
Thanks for having me. Really, thanks for having me, Neil. Appreciate it. Appreciate the intro.
So psyched to learn from you and pick your brain. You've still a young man, but I've done so much impressive work already in your career and work with some incredible people as well. But before we get into the meat of our discussion, we want to hear about you, learn about your background, your career path. So tell us about how you got started in the space, your stops along the way, and any tips for folks that want to do what you do.
Perfect. Yeah. Where should I start? Should I start at the beginning? No, I was
born on a cold day. No.
Yeah. No.
How you got started in your career? Why, like studying at university, and then your experiences early on?
Yeah. So I started basically, if we skip through that early life, let's say, I started studying international business in Amsterdam, which was kind of okay, but I didn't really click with any of it. I really wanted to do something in football, and kind of finished it a bit, slacked it a bit. Finished a 4-year bachelor in 6 years, so doing lots of side hustles in the meantime and trying to just survive and finish. And then when I finished, I started a job in data analysis, working for a media company, which was fine. Like I was always kind of good with numbers, so I kind of finessed it, and it was fine, and we went along. And then I was like 25, and I decided that I needed a break, and I needed to work, or to make a move to work towards football, because if not, I would never work in football. And that's where I decided to move countries to Spain. And then I did a master in sports management in Barcelona, just with one big dream to ever work for FC Barcelona. Didn't really happen immediately, but then got an opportunity, like some sort of hidden golden ticket through LinkedIn, when a connection hit me up and say, hey, isn't 433 something interesting for you? And 433, for those who don't know, is a big publisher, football publisher, one of the biggest now, 60 million followers plus, and yeah, probably the biggest in football. And they were just making their way. Back in the days, they had like 15 million followers, but they were not really a publisher yet, and they didn't have their own content. And they brought me on as a partnerships manager to start making content and establish content relationships with clubs and players, etc. So that's where I came in, and we were a super small team, 6 guys, everyone working super hard. And then from one day to another, there was this hosting opportunity because we needed someone who spoke Spanish, and we had only one presenter who only spoke English. And that's when I raised my hand and I said, "Yo, I can do it." And said, "You sure?" I said, "Yeah, yeah, why not?" And then I did it, and then yeah, it went absolutely fine. And I continued like interviewing players and to going on trips to create content, and that's where like there was like the birth of me as a content creator.
Wow. I mean, so when you were tasked to become this host, did you already were you already accustomed to speaking Spanish on a day-to-day basis, or was that like a big thing? I mean, no, we kind of joked before we got started here that you guys learn the languages a lot more than we do out here in the States. So was Spanish already something that you were comfortable doing in your day-to-day job?
No, so I was lucky. I was lucky that I did a master in Spain, because the master itself was in Spanish, and I kind of thought like, okay, it would be okay, you come to the semester, I don't know, you have Americans, you have French, you have, I don't know, you have people from all over the world, and it really wasn't like that. There were 15 South Americans, 15 Spanish people, and me. So my Spanish wasn't at all at a good level. It was at super basic level, but and I was really struggling for the first 3 4 months. Couldn't like string sentences together. And then after that year, I was like, I came out, bam, fluent in Spanish, impeccable. So I just had to survive. So yeah, we had to make it happen, and it did happen. So I'm really happy for that. I think it also kind of shows like when you're thrown like at a challenge like this, and you have no choice, then you just have to make it out. It was either speak Spanish or have zero friends. So I went with the speak Spanish option.
And then, like, I want to complete the story before we get too deep into it. You spent time at Barcelona. Tell me about how you worked with the FIFA World Cup. Tell me how you ended up here where you are today. As the head of Double Tap.
Yeah, so fast forward, yeah, but I passed through Barcelona as well. Then recently took a job at Ajax also as a content creator and host. But when I was at Barcelona, it was kind of in a COVID era that I was just sitting home. Everyone I think at COVID had way too much free time and way too much home time, and I was thinking like, okay, I'm here. I'm doing all these cool things at Barca, and until that moment, I hadn't caught a break in 1.5 years. It was week in, week out, 2 games a week, intense crisis at the club, firing managers, new players. There was always something, and I just couldn't have time for myself. And COVID was the first time that I really thought for myself, like, yo, I'm doing all these cool things. I'm on a normal salary, but the experience is what counts. And what am I going to do with my future? So I had this idea. It came from basically from egoistic reasons. That was that I was a kind of a content creator myself as well, still am. And I thought, okay, why with my reach and with my followers or with my content, why can't I make money, some extra cash? And kind of thinking like, okay, it would be really nice if someone would be out there fighting for me or representing me. And I kind of looked around and I didn't really find like talent management agencies representing content creators of my sort, like low level kind of, like micro influencers, like some between 50 and 100K followers, it didn't really exist. So then I looked around at all my other content creator friends and went to their bio, spoke with them. It's like, yo, you have an agency? No, no agency, no campaigns, no extra money, just content and vibes. So I thought, okay, this has to change. So I called them all, also starting with Fabrizio Mano, yo, Fabrizio, I'm working on this project. What do you think? He said, yo, that's crazy that you're asking, because I was literally just looking for someone to help me, because I have so much work and I need some support. So then we started talking, and then we found each other, and then I found some other ones as well, and we kind of like got it up and running on the side. So that was pretty nice.
And for listeners who are somehow not aware, Fabrizio Romano is basically the Adrian Wojnarowski of the football world, but probably even bigger than Woj and Schefter and Adam Schefter out here. It's just if news happens in the football world, it's usually Fabrizio Romano that's breaking it.
100%.
So how, I mean, there's so much that I want to dive into here. How did you sort of get started in the content creation space? Like, did it happen because of your work with 433 and Barcelona, or were you a content creator first and these full-time job opportunities kind of came along that utilized those skills you already had?
No. So I was just a normal guy, still am, but I was just a normal guy starting as a partnerships manager at 433. Had nothing to do with it, and then I started like creating content at 433 and posting some stuff as well on my own channels. And back in the days, it was more like pictures and stories and storylines. And yeah, at 433, like people who saw me, they had like this natural interest as well, because it was really now you go on Instagram and you see everyone is everywhere. You take a football game, everyone is at that football game, everyone's creating the same or similar type of content from that football game, so you're really covered. But back in the days, like you go you cover the game on your stories wasn't really a thing. So we started with that at 433 and also extended that to my personal channels. I'm just posting like stuff from my experiences, like pictures with players or videos or like some cool things, and people or followers from 433 liked it. And then I went to Barcelona, and that's where you really noticed like the global impact that this club has, because I was the first cog basically between the first team as an entity and all the players and everything they put out, and the outer world, because I was the voice, their face. On match days, I would used to do like Instagram takeovers, or sometimes YouTube lives, and whatever we said, like we were always on the ground. So whatever we showed, people would go to our private channels, me and also the other host back at the days at Barcelona, to see what's happening. And I was always very aware of that community that is there, and how you could kind of use it to your favor. But also like it. I always loved that ping pong between, like different communities, or one game like saying something, looking up some Indonesian phrases and saying it on the Barca stories, and then receiving like love from Indonesian community, and then another time from the Moroccans, and then another time with America, or like around a specific thing. So I always was very like, switched on with those kinds of moments.
And was the idea of a host, because I think now we kind of take it for granted that there are a lot of clubs out there have a face or a host or someone. And I like to think of it kind of as like the fans you're like a good friend of fans all around the world who just happens to have this great access, and is like, it's just like getting messages or stories from your friends. It was like, was that did that happen organically? Was that the goal? Is that, hey, we want Aviv to kind of be this friend of all the fans, and who has all this great access, is going to take you around, as opposed to just being this like nameless, faceless FC Barcelona account, and you never see the face of who's actually taking the content or producing the videos.
So I think here Barcelona was very brave at the time, because when I started at 433, the first ever activation with the club that I did was with Barca, and it was March 2018, like round of 16 Champions League, Barca Chelsea, and I was sent for 433, and this is one of the first time that I made content for them. And as I make my stories, it's my first ever videos, and I post them to the 433 account. The digital guy from Barca comes up to me and says, "Yo, wouldn't you like to do this for Barca?"
Wow.
I'm like, I played it cool, I played it hard to get. Said, yeah, but I have a cool job, we do cool things, but if it's ever concrete, hit me up. And then 3 months later, he said, "Yo, I need your resume right now." Fast forward 6 months later, I joined Barca, and they were really the first club who made a decision to hire a host specifically for the Instagram channels. So to cover all the first team trainings, but also all the first team matches. And now, as you said, rightly, now you go to any second tier team, like second division in Italy, to a random team channel. You click on a match day, and there will be a guy or a girl hosting on Instagram, which is bizarre, like thinking about it. But back in the days, like 5, 6 years ago, no one, it was not very common. You had the traditional presenter or host for the club channel, club TV, but not for a social host. And now it's very hard to think away this social figure. And that's really when I noticed. In 2019, we went to the States and Japan for our summer tour. And when the players, just before the players arrived, we always used to arrive in our bus, the media team. And when I got off the bus, you know, like in Miami, I remember Miami and Brickell, like people would go crazy. Like people just, I would come off the bus and people would just shout, Aviv, 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 Aviv,
Wow.
photo, picture. I'm like, whoa. And my boss as well. My bosses, they were looking at the situation, they were tripping. They was like, wait, what? What is happening here? Why is this? Why are they behaving like this? He's just a host. He's just a normal guy. He's just a communications guy. I'm not sure if they liked that evolution of idolizing like one of the hosts. So sometimes I think, okay, they were super brave on this, but on the other hand, they also try to keep the focus really on the first team, which is also justified.
Yeah, I mean, they almost probably didn't expect it to happen. They didn't know it was going to happen, that a host would become, would form this, the word is, I guess, this parasocial relationship with fans, because they see you every day, and you're their ticket to get all the access to the first team and the trainings and the matches and all that. I want to take a step back for a moment too, and just, it's hard to appreciate what a huge global brand a club like FC Barcelona is, and like many of the clubs in the world. What did the social media team look like there? Were there tons of accounts that are localized for each country? Were you always delivering your content in Spanish? Were you also delivering some in English? And some, I mean, what does that team look like? And then how do you guys go about figuring out what you're going to be working on and the kind of content that you're going to be producing?
Yeah, so you're kind of right. So what I also said before, the global impact that Barca has also extends to all the other sports they're active in. It's not very common that, for example, take Golden State Warriors, for example. It's a basketball team. It's just a basketball team. So New York Yankees, just a baseball team, And also here in Europe, I mean, I'm now at Ajax. It's just a football team. But Barca, it's a football team. It's a basketball team. It's a ice hockey team. It's a hockey team. It's a rugby team. It's a handball team. Futsal team. They have their second team. They have so many they have so many other sports that they're active in. And then you also have the language barrier or the language thing. So as they're based in Catalonia in Spain, the province Catalonia, Catalan was our first language. So whenever you did something in Spanish, you also had to do it in Catalan for sure.
Wow.
And when you did it in Catalan and Spanish, you're a global team, man. Come on, you need to do it in English as well. So you ended up sometimes on Instagram. There was a time that we always had to put captions in 3 languages, which looked a bit too much. It's an old chunk of text in 3 languages. So we used to play a lot between English, Catalan, or all 3 of them. And on Twitter, you could play with it a bit more because you had, just language-specific accounts for the most important markets. So Barca Arabic, Brazil, France, Japan, Spanish, Catalan, English.
And does that then also affect a little bit of the references and slang and cultural things that you can talk about? Like, there are some things that most people in the world will get. Like, I think we all know maybe who Taylor Swift is, but maybe not. But like, are there things you have to keep in mind that, hey, this is going to make sense to the fans in Spain, but the fans in the US or the fans in Japan aren't going to know what the heck I'm talking about?
No, so that's definitely you always need to keep in mind like who you're speaking to in your references. I always love to make references. The thing is, I think I was also very free in what I did was because I managed Instagram stories and Instagram most of the time, and that's mostly the younger audience, and I was free to do whatever I want, and most of the time it was well received because I was better connected. But I also did Twitter English with another guy, and that's where we started to play a bit more with references. So sometimes we would throw in a movie reference and like an American movie. What else? Yeah. So
Even things like you said, you had a sick pick. Like that's even just using that slang term. Like if you say that same thing in Spanish, it's probably gonna sound differently than you would in English. So like even just having those things in mind and knowing that there are certain slang terms. If I say like nutmeg or like some soccer terms as well, that may make sense to some fans, but other fans may have no idea what you're talking about.
exactly. No, and as well, exactly with that. So sometimes we had I remember one time that Messi chipped in training, and we posted something like Messi loves chips with the chips emoji, you know.
Yeah.
So it was well received overall, but of course you have that the chips is different in every language, or you have to kind of be careful like with what you use. Or now there is a big reggaeton kind of culture, you know, like Latin music kind of culture. So we sometimes we use some phrases from Bad Bunny or Bad Bunny songs or something similar. So it's more about like the culture and knowing as well who you're speaking to. I know that in for the Spanish account now, after that I left, they hired some young kids who understand more the kind of the media landscape, but also what's the talk on social media. So what are the other people saying? You know, what are the fan accounts saying? And they're kind of playing with them, using memes, using speaking about, for example, important figures like Ibai Llanos, tweeting about him or interacting with kind of important moments also that don't necessarily happen in the football world, but also in the digital world. So it's kind of interesting developments.
Let's also talk about not just with Barcelona, but Ajax, World Cup, everything in general, and we'll get to the World Cup in a moment as well. Um, about what fans want and what tended to work well. I mean, you have your diehard football fans that probably want to see every single drill from training or want to really just focus on what's going on the pitch. You have other fans that may really enjoy seeing the culture or seeing the music being played or the food being eaten or what's on this player's playlist before a game or Spotify playlist. So, what have you learned from your experience and what kind of content resonates the most? And did you also like intentionally try to diversify what content you're presenting to kind of give that full picture of the match day or even just overall experience?
I think in general it's just so hard to come up with new ideas, and that just goes back to the fact that basically every match day is the same. If you take like a match day in at home, it's the same thing. The same things happen all over again, you know. So it's match day. You start with it, then the players come. The players go to the locker room. They change. They come out to the pitch. They do a warming up. Like the fans arrive to the stadium. You film some fans. They go back into the tunnel. They change. Game starts. Game ends. Game, you know, and that's it. Everyone goes home. And within those parameters, there's not a lot that you can change. However, it was always like a challenge. Okay, today I'm going to focus on fans. Today I'm gonna because we're playing against, for example, Valencia away, and Valencia is known for their orange juices and bats. We're gonna do something with that, you know, or they have like a really cool mascot, so we're gonna take that. Or for example, I remember one time playing against Liverpool in the semifinals, and their coach Klopp said that Camp Nou is not a temple, you know. So the first thing we do is it's match day. Welcome to our temple, you know. So kind of kind of like provoking. So always like being aware of like things that happen around you and what you can use just to improve your content a little bit. And because once you say that, for example, like welcome to our temple, everyone is like guest all of a sudden, you know, like on Twitter it's like, this is you know, this is our admin, like let's go, you know, like let's show them. So there's also this like you can also unify a fan base through the contents that you make. And I think that's really, really cool. So, and going back to your other question, like how do you diversify your content, is I always really liked as raw as possible, So my personal preference is nothing too edited, nothing too crazy. It's just um, clicking play and see how the players would interact with you. So sometimes they would, because at the end of the day, if you are behind the camera, you're behind the camera. No one needs to know. But once they interact with your direction. So we had a lot of times that the players would come up to us, or like coming out of the parking and walking to the locker room, and we would be there just filming, and they would just come for a fist bump.
Yeah.
And that was always super nice. And now you see every team in the world, social media's team, receiving fist bumps from their players. But I think it kind of started somewhere around there. And players also would start realize like, yo, if I don't fist bump the admin, there's no chance he will post me, because. So you at some point that like all 20 players would just like walk past you and fist bump you, and then you had to pick the best fist bump. So
And did you start to like earn that trust of players over time? They get to know, okay, this is Aviv. We know where this content's going. We know he's going to make us look good only. He's not going to put us in a bad light. You start to realize, like, A, do you start to get that trust of players? And then B, do you start to understand, okay, I know this player is always down to joke around, but this player, maybe he just is focused on training or getting ready for the match. Like, do you start to get that idea of what you're best off in terms of working with players?
I think if you take any random group of 25 guys together, you always have some players who are a bit more relaxed, a bit more down to earth. Then you have a few players that are a bit more outspoken, right? And you have a few jokers, you have a few shy people. It's like it's just like a normal mini society, all in one dressing room. And I think it all comes down to respect at the end of the day. So what you said at the beginning, like they know I make them look good. So there was a good proof of concept. I was there for a few months. They were all like pretty cautious with me at the beginning, like who's this new guy? What's he filming? Is he going to post some stupid things? Is he going to make us look bad? A lot of cursing, around the pitch. Is he going to pick up on that? Is something gonna leak? Then you see after a while that that I'm completely clean and always make them look good, no matter what. And I say, okay, he's one of us. So no matter what. So they would always say hi. Some of them would interact a bit with you more. Some of them, the younger ones especially, they know the benefit of social media, and they know that if they're nice to you, or if they're funny, or if, for example, we had Antoine Griezmann, who every time he would see the camera, I assume it's a camera, because he wouldn't do it towards me, but every time he would see me with holding my phone, he would do like a little dance, or he would interact, or he would like hide his face, but he would always look for an interaction, always, 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 no matter what. And those players are fantastic to have in a group because it's content as well, and they understand it, which is beneficial for everyone.
Totally. And how did you ultimately, and as well as the clubs, now with Ajax, then with Barcelona and your other clients as well, like especially being on a platform like Stories, where yes, you do have some data, you have also fans that are engaging back with you, perhaps. How did you get a feel for what's working, what maybe didn't work as well, and also maybe strategically working with the clubs themselves and saying, hey, we want to make sure you feature this. Like, how did the actual strategy come together, or was it a little bit of just kind of playing it by ear as well, like in real time?
Man, I think since the first day that I was working at Barca to the last day, there was a complete change. Like if you compare these two like periods of time, when I first got in, it was pretty chill, do whatever you want, like build a storyline, post as you wish, no graphics, no paid partnerships, nothing. It was just like go as you want. Then by the end of my time, I think per game we had like 10 paid partnership obligations. So, like a sponsored match day, and then a sponsored every goal, and a sponsored lineup, and a sponsored halftime, sponsored full time, sponsored post match stats, all by all kinds of partners that you was like, ah, shit, okay, I have this now. If this one scores, I will receive a graphic from someone. I need to download it. Then I need to put a link as well. Then I need to tag the paid partners. It was the whole landscape changed completely. As also they understood the value of stories, but and also of monetizing it and the eyes, because at the end of the day, if you have like 4 or 5 million people reviewing every story, that's very hard like reach for clients. So they were like, okay, we need to jump on this. So as a social media employee, you're like also one of the first, as I saw it, always one of the first salesmen as well. So if you messed up, you also messed up for them. So we always were made aware of that, and also the level of graphics, the high level of graphics, that everything needs to look like unified and have one graphic line across everything that you post all day. Those were like the big developments. And I think now it's like when you look everywhere, every club does a really good job at the end of the day now, because the benchmark the benchmark is so wide, and you can literally watch everywhere and you will see good examples.
There's so many more questions I have for you, Aviv, but I want to keep us going though, because we have a few minutes left here with Aviv Levy. He is the founder of Double Tap, also working with Ajax now in Amsterdam. Tell me about working on the World Cup. I mean, I watched FIFA World Cup daily. I saw your face a lot. So tell me about how the opportunity came about for you, and then I just kind of want to hear like what goes into planning content for the biggest event in the world.
Man, FIFA World Cup was such an amazing event to be in, especially because I really wanted to be there. So also one of the things that I really believe in, working towards things, and I really, really wanted to be there. So I made like a little plan in my head that I would pitch something to the FIFA well ahead of time, trying to get in touch with the right person, because I also believe in contacts and like trying to find a way in always. Fast forward, I managed, and finally we managed. That was also one of Double Tap's first like big gigs to send 4 content creators. One of them was me, to the World Cup. So I was there for the 5 weeks creating content for the FIFA, which is, in all fairness, it's a different beast. FIFA. I was lucky that I had the experience of having worked for Barca to understand like the magnitude of such a big organization. So I was not overwhelmed by the occasion. Some others were, but it's a different beast. It's like you're working literally for the biggest sports organization in the world, during the biggest sporting event of the world. So which carries lots of joy, but also way more responsibility than that. It's like, for example, just the accreditation that we had was like an all access accreditation. So the temptation is like, okay, I can literally walk anywhere I want, any training facilities, any team hotel, any stadium at any match at any given time. But you can't, because you're like working, you're like, you have you have stuff to do and places to be at. But it was so cool, like being on the inside, and like going on your other question, which was like the planning the contents. So it's quite a big team. So we have a bunch of editors, but also a bunch of coordinators and a bunch of people posting. But then what you said with Barca as well, we have people posting for all the languages. So Arabic, Arabic, Portuguese, Spanish, etc., and all the other important languages of the world, posting at the same time. But you also had us, the content creators, which basically is also a lot of time just content capturers, which is now a big phenomenon. Just go stand behind the goal and try to film the goal, because of course you can see the goal on TV, but it's nicer if you see it from someone filmed by phone, right? Like, it's because it feels like you filmed it, or you interacted with it directly. So So they made us kind of content capturers, and I could honestly say it was probably the best time of my life, because I kind of pushed myself into following the Argentinian fans. I said that I understood the Argentinian fans, and
Wow.
and yeah, I made a sample in one of the games that it was Argentina Poland, in which I went with a 360 camera in my mouth to the game, and
wow.
I was just in between in between the Argentinian fans, and the content was just so good that they always said, like, the games after, yo, okay, Aviv, today you're gonna follow the Argentinian fans, okay? So from start to finish, and yeah, so I was lucky, like living all the Argentina's matches, and then up until the final, in which I was on the Argentina side, capturing the emotions, the crying, the screaming, everything. So yeah, that was pretty sick.
That's so cool, and it's cool to see these develop. I guess with the rights holders, with FIFA itself, understanding, because I think maybe a couple of years ago or even longer ago, I used to always say, like, the best content in sports is like on Snapchat or on, like, go to the Snap Map and look at like the raw content from fans. But now to have like FIFA hiring someone like you to say, hey, we want that raw content, and we want fans to, like, the fans ultimately come to say, like, yeah, we will watch this raw content on a FIFA channel, on an official media channel, on an official, like, BBC, Sky Sports, whatever, name your platform, as opposed to, like, just wanting to see the content on fan accounts. Like, I guess, like, the fact that, as you said, the fans can see that highlight of a goal all day, but it means it's something different when it looks like it's coming from someone's phone who's on the pitch. Like, is that something that you saw evolve throughout your time, where fans do want that feeling of being there? Like, what drives that desire for fans to want that immersive content, even if it's blurry and hard to see, but it still has that little more value compared to, like, a pristine, polished looking highlight clip?
Man, I could go back to my time at Barca. So once I filmed, it was full Camp Nou, and we played, I think, Sevilla, the cup, and it was pre-COVID, so stadium was full. And I remember one of the guys scored. It was a 6-1. They they celebrate in my phone, and I was just there. I filmed them, but I didn't have a reason to film them because it was a La Liga competition, so we couldn't use that footage at all. Like, we knew already, we can throw it to the bin. So I was like, oh man, but this is sick content, right? And then we had a cup game. So no, I think that the one before wasn't a cup game. So we had a cup game after, and it was COVID, and it was in that crazy season where we won the cup, where we were like losing all the games and made like crazy comebacks in the last few minutes. And I think it was me and only 20 other people in the stadium. And yeah, Griezmann scores the 2-2, last minute 2-2, sending us to extra time. And I'm just standing there with my phone, like, filming. And from all the other places on the pitch, it chooses to come to exactly where I'm standing. So I'm like, so we had this amazing, beautiful piece of content where the whole team just screams and celebrates, and it's COVID, so stadiums are empty. So you could hear everything, every emotion, everything. So they celebrate in front of my face. And next game, repeat against Sevilla. We're losing 2-0, making it 2-2. PK scores in the very, very dying minutes, and he comes celebrate in front of my face again. So there was screaming, there was these raw emotions that you cannot capture, like, through the camera of a TV. And it's like people want to live it like it's their own phone, you know. That's also like it's way more relatable than a TV camera, which is weird, like, it's when you think about it.
Yeah, and it kind of goes back to where we started, of talking about, like, how people want to feel like, yeah, they're just Aviv's friend, and he's there with the camera, there with his phone, and giving us, behind the scenes of Barcelona, or behind the scenes of a FIFA World Cup game, Argentina game. And it's really cool to think about. A couple more things here before we get to the shareable stat. I promise I can keep you all day, all night, Aviv, but I will let you go eventually. And I want to talk about the work that you do with Fabrizio Romano, and again, out here in the States, like, we all know Adam Schefter in the NFL. We all know Adrian Wojnarowski in the NBA. So when you're working with someone with such a reach of Fabrizio, and even yourself as well, as a a micro influencer. I'll call you an influencer. What are the goals of being on these platforms? Like ultimately, like yes, Fabrizio has so many scoops to produce or so many news to get out there. Like, is there a strategy to it, or is it ultimately just like, hey, like put the content out there, you're gonna get followers, you're gonna get engagement, and just keep doing your thing?
Yeah, so I don't necessarily think there's a strategy. I just think there's news and there's event to report on, and that he has that utmost desire to report on everything that happens. And it's kind of like what you see with the best football players, right? I mean, or with the best people and everything, or the best people in their sector. I could consider him one, like he's the best in what he does. You mentioned Vosges, you mentioned Schefter. They're probably the best at what they do. However, they also work for organizations. So Fabrizio, I think the big difference with Fabrizio is that he's fully independent. He wasn't up until 2 years ago, but now he's fully independent. He's built a network that is in a position where everyone just wants to tell him everything. So if it's players, managers, agents, sporting directors, club owners, friends, literally anyone wants a piece of him, and he wants a piece of everyone. And he's a workaholic and one of the most like hardworking persons that I've ever seen, and also one of the best. Like, so it's not only hard work, but also one of the most talented, because I've seen him record like 3 YouTube videos in 15 minutes, and 3 different YouTube videos, 3 different storylines without a single or or like, oh shit, let me go again. Like, he just presses play, says what he has to say, no preparation, presses stop, presses play again, goes with another story, and goes again. This man is a machine, and that's why I think he's the best in what he does. And I don't think at this moment, he's still satisfied with what he has accomplished, and he wants more and more. And it's also now, it's the cliche what people say. It's like, okay, getting to the top is hard, but staying there is also harder, because now there's with being at the top, you gain a lot of haters as well. People want to see him fail. People want to see him like deliver bad news, or something that's not accurate, or when he says, yo, player A is going to club B, and then it doesn't happen. It's like, you see, Fabrizio, this didn't happen, suck on this, and the people want to see him fail, and he does everything for it not to happen as well. So I think it's, yeah, him is really an example, really, to other people.
When you look at the opportunity there with that platform, are you like, hey, let's try to expand your brand on Instagram, or like, let's try to get you more active on YouTube, or like, I know that Fabricio was one of the early users on Threads, as an example. So, like, I guess first off, there's a lot to manage with all these platforms, but then with you working with them as well, how do you direct like where he should spend his time, where he should put his effort in, both from a reach perspective, but also like, what's going to make money as well?
So the thing is with Fabrizio, he's his own person. Yeah. So I'm just there to support. So and we support wherever we can. So for example, with YouTube, 2 years ago, he wasn't active on YouTube. It's exactly 2 years ago when we opened YouTube for him. And we explained him this project. So like, yeah, yo, you have all this information, but no YouTube channel. Just send us the videos and we can edit them and make you a really cool channel. So we found this way of working. Same with TikTok. And the rest, I'm not gonna lie, like everything, the rest he posts himself. So like all these, I think he does like per day 300-400 posts, and he does everything himself. No one has the access to any of his like written social media channels. And yeah, but for example with TikTok, we said, yo, you need to be on there, and he was kind of hesitant at the beginning because it had more the fame of, okay, there's like young girls or dancing people on TikTok or whatever. But I said, yeah, there's also journalists, and you can also bring your news. And the football people that follow you, they're also on TikTok. So why not? Like, let's go make the same thing you do on YouTube for 4 minutes. Let's do it on TikTok in 30 seconds or 45 seconds. And that worked kind of well. 7 million now. So yeah, step by step.
How do you approach something? And last thing for example, sure, will start. I promise. I can keep you all day.
No worries.
Let's talk about just because it is timely. It's gonna make this a little bit time sensitive, but Twitter, Threads, where like as I mean, Fabricio certainly is huge on Twitter. I'm sure all of the platforms you work on or a lot of the teams you work with, Twitter is still really big, and it's still going to be big. But as something like Threads comes about, how do you personally evaluate it? Can you see a day where Twitter loses its influence, or at least loses its value to some degree? What are you looking for Threads to know that this is a platform that's worth spending time on, that is worth becoming a quote unquote first class citizen, next to the other major platforms?
I think ultimately it comes down to, without sounding too harsh, it comes down to who's paying. So most of the creators also want to be where they get paid properly. That's what happened, for example, with I think one of the best cases is with TikTok. So there was TikTok, which TikTok paid a little bit, and then there was Instagram Reels, and they don't pay anything, and they're kind of pushing Reels pretty aggressively, and no one really cares. And then you have YouTube Shorts, and they started monetizing their YouTube Shorts, saying, "Hey, come give us your short form vertical content, post it here, we'll pay you." TikTok then replied, said, "Okay, we're gonna pay you guys more. If you live now in Brazil, France, or whatever, for I don't know, for 1 million views, you can get very decent money on those platforms." So I think ultimately it will be a case of this as well. Like if Threads find a good way to monetize people's content and also repay them for being on that platform, it could become really big. Also, it has that cooler look and feel. I mean, I'm a Twitter for like all my life, mostly a voyeur for most of the time. Sometimes also put something out there to troll and stuff back in the days. But myself, I love Twitter, but there were a lot of people, especially from the Instagram sphere, who never even touched Twitter or downloaded Twitter or never even gave it a look, And now because it's so easily accessible, they start exploring that world. If Twitter doesn't become more friendly for like let's say the average Joe, then I fear that Threads could become a bit bigger. But still, it's a culture thing, I feel.
And I mean, as we're speaking today, I'm pretty sure Threads is still not even available in the EU.
No, I don't have it. I couldn't download it yet.
So we'll see. I think it's supposed to arrive at some point in 2023. They're working on getting through the privacy issues there. But no, I mean, we can go on this forever. But the fact that someone like a Woj, someone like a Fabricio they're not like traditional quote unquote creators in the traditional sense, but the amount of value that Fabricio brings to Twitter, the amount of people that are on Twitter because of him, the amount of people that have his notifications turned on, the amount of retweets that he gets, the amount of impressions that he generates that ultimately lead to more ads in the feed and more money for Twitter, and yet he's not seeing a cut of that, let alone the Wojs or the Schefters. Like there's something there where the amount of value that these newsbreakers are providing to Twitter, and they're not getting compensated in return. There's not really a question there for me to ask you, but there's something there where how do we, I guess, find that ability to compensate them for the value that they're creating?
And I can be really short on this. I saw an overview that was sent to me, and that we also discussed with Fabrizio. That in the last months, in the last 30 days, or in the last 28 days, the most famous Twitterers were I can tell you, I have the list right here. Okay, so the first one with 5 billion views, non-aesthetic things. So the Twitter account non-aesthetic things. The second one was Fabrizio Romano with 3 billion impressions. So worldwide, yeah, worldwide. Third one, Elon Musk, 2.8 billion. And then like there was humans no context, should have a cat, internet all fame, all below. So this guy, he generates 3 billion impressions per month for Twitter as well, because everyone's interacting with him. So he's like a key stakeholder and a key opinion leader on this platform. But yet he doesn't see a single penny from the platform. So this obviously should change, because we're posting short videos on YouTube every day. We're making money. as it should be, because at the end of the day, if you want to be independent or if you want to get people to your platform, they should be paid accordingly as well.
Totally. And you even start to consider how many people then aggregate Fabrizio's content and elsewhere on the web or creating Instagram posts just showing his tweet or showing the news that he reported. I mean, there's an entire ecosystem of a marketplace of content that is just all starting from Fabrizio's tweets one at a time, and same with other newsbreakers as well in that space. Oh, really interesting conversation that we're not going to find an answer today, but certainly something to keep an eye on as this all plays out. But Aviv, we're gonna have some more fun with you coming up in our set plays segment, so stick around for that. But first, this episode's shareable stat coming up right now. Man, so awesome. Just shooting shit, learning, talking about strategy with Aviv Levy of AFC Ajax and, of course, the head of Double Tap, as we talked about his agency where he works with teams, with clubs, with individuals like Fabrizio Romano. But we're going to have some more fun with Aviv coming up in our set plays segment. But first, this episode's shareable stat. This episode's shareable stat comes from a recent eMarketer poll. They're, of course, creating a lot of stats all the time. And in June 2023, they looked at U.S. adults 18 and over and the user time spent across social platforms, or across platforms, really. And the stat that I'm going to share you today is that Twitter was really the top social platform with 34 minutes in terms of time spent per day on average. Now, it's not the top of the list because the top of the list is Netflix, followed by TikTok, which you might want to call it social media, but it really is an entertainment platform. It's even how the Apple App Store categorizes it. So you have Netflix, TikTok, Hulu, Spotify, of course, the music app, YouTube, which is definitely more of an entertainment app and a content app than a social media app, and then Twitter. Twitter is ahead of Instagram, ahead of Facebook, ahead of Snapchat, among others, and that may or may not be surprising to you. This was, again, conducted in June 2023, so pretty recent, depending on when you're listening to this podcast, and it just goes to show that the users on Twitter, and maybe not too surprising, are pretty heavy users, are power users. Yes, there's plenty of people that are lurking on there, but they're checking it often. There's a high volume play there as well. So I think every team in the league pretty much is still active on Twitter. You may be trying to also spend more time on Threads or putting more time into other platforms, Snap, TikTok, YouTube Shorts, etc. But understand who your audience is on Twitter, and that is that they are going to tend to be more of the super fan variety. And focus on how you want to serve those super fans. You may see a similar super fan audience maybe on your Instagram stories. Again, they're thinking about that higher volume play and what the best way is to engage those fans. And yes, there's that play-by-play aspect on Twitter, especially when fans are following a live event, a live game, a live tournament, like the World Cup. And so that time spent is going to go up. And it's similar to, you may not get the big home runs that you would get on an Instagram in-feed post or a TikTok that goes viral or a YouTube video that takes off. But the volume plays, for lack of a better term. And when you add up, dozens, hundreds of tweets on a given daily basis, let alone over the course of a week, and you have fans that are spending, on average, the most of any platform when it comes to social media platforms, over 30 minutes a day for the average user. And again, that's higher than any of the other social media platforms, only behind TikTok and YouTube that are kind of in that social adjacent category. So definitely something to think about, talk about. A little bit surprising to me when I saw that, even as many are writing the obituary of Twitter. Well, I guess Twitter is officially dying in favor of X. But the platform, whatever you call it by any other name, still has its power users, and they are spending more time per day on that platform compared to any other users on other social platforms. So 34 minutes, that's a social shareable stat. Again, June 2023 from eMarketer. Think about it, talk about it, ponder it, but more importantly, stick around for more fun with Aviv Levy of Double Tap. Right back from this episode's shareable stat. I'm joined once again by Aviv Levy. He is the founder of Double Tap. Just does so much great work in the football space. And Aviv, you kicked ass in your interview. Are you now ready to do a few set plays?
Guaranteed. Bring it on.
All right, let's go. Number one, you're not super old, so I don't know what this answer will be. But tell me, number one, the first social media platform that you were active on.
It was Facebook, but no one uses Facebook ever, so we're gonna say Twitter.
Were you fairly early on Twitter, or did you come later in the game?
Yeah. No, early,
Yeah.
2009, 2010, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're definitely part of that
Yeah.
early generation of Twitter. Number two. This could be a fun one. Tell me the most memorable player interview or content that you've produced. Which one that sticks out in your mind?
That really, I think it was a 7 second challenge that I played with Frankie De Jong, which is a Barca midfielder. And it's a Barca midfielder. And just before he came to Barca, so we flew to Amsterdam to capture some content with him, and everyone was just so thirsty to see him and to see content with him, and we made a nice piece of content, and I think it had like to this day 3 million views on YouTube. So it was really nice. Everyone was super eager to see something of him.
We'll have to look it up for sure and review it. All right, number three. How about just going to one where you were producing or hosting? It could be any piece of content. The most viral that you produced or hosted.
I think then it was the celebration with Antoine Griezmann for his first goal first goal in the Camp Nou against Real Betis. It was 4 years ago, and I was before the game we agreed, or he asked me to give him some confetti in red and blue colors when he scored a goal. So I was waiting for him in the corner when he scored, and then he came to me and I kind of poured confetti in his hand, and he did a LeBron James,
Yeah,
like with the chalk powder celebration, and he did with the confetti, and it was pretty cool to be part of that because it's like it's forever. It's like, of course you have memories, but it's like it's also there forever. Like, yeah.
that is awesome. That's one of those things too, where like you're about to push post, you're about to push send or whatever, and you know it's just gonna blow up and go viral. That's awesome.
100%.
Number four. This might be a tough one, but you've been at a lot of great games throughout your life, throughout your career. Tell me the best game that you've been at in person.
Yeah, so up until not so long ago, this best game was the Barca 6-1 against PSG, which was a comeback in the Champions League after having lost a 4-0 away. But now it's a World Cup final. It's the World Cup final when Messi finally won his World Cup. That game was insane.
Just so cool that you got to be there. I'm so jealous. I mean, the whole world was watching. Just such a cool experience.
I'm also jealous of myself. Like, yeah, it's weird, but it's like it feels so real that I was there, and now it doesn't feel like I was there, but it was amazing, amazing.
But I'll give you credit to you weren't there by accident, like you spoke about in the interview portion. You made it happen, and so you made that break happen for yourself. It's really cool. Number five for you, Aviv. Tell me the coolest city that you traveled to. It could be for work or it could be not for work. Just tell me the city in the world that has just really stuck with you.
Yeah, then I'm gonna go with Buenos Aires, and it's purely for football reasons. I was also lucky enough to travel there 5 years ago. It was with 433,
Mhm.
and the goal was so I was there 5 days, no, 4 days, and we went to four football matches. So I was lucky to see Boca Juniors River Plate, which is a super classico, one of the biggest games on the planet. Atmosphere was insane, but also I had the pleasure of seeing some other football matches. And to be honest, like Argentinian football culture is unmatched, really
Yeah.
unmatched. The football is really shit, but the culture is unmatched. Like the how they live football and how they cheer their team on is next level. So that was really enjoyable.
Oh man, I'll have to make it a point to see a football game in Argentina at some point now.
100%.
Number six for you, Aviv. Tell me, in your time running Double Tap and building up the agency. Tell me the biggest lesson that you've learned in doing so far.
Um, Alone you cannot achieve anything. I think that's really what I learned because I was always very individualistic in everything I did. So all the goals that I set for myself, I kind of went after them and achieved them by myself. And but after starting my agency, you try to have some of those mechanisms, but you see it like backfires most of the time. So you really need like a team around you, like collect good people, hardworking people, creative people, and most of the time, like just give things away, like give control away of things, and like put trust in someone else, because that's when the other person flourishes. When he or she feels valued, so that they can like do really cool things, if it's content wise or business wise, or coming up with a cool idea or a cool campaign, or having insights that I would never even think of. So I've learned to give a lot of space, and to give a lot of freedom to everyone I work with, and to encourage them to just like that there are no limits, like come up with the craziest ideas, even though if they're unreasonable, but don't think of them as unreasonable.
Yeah. No, I like that a lot. And I think a lot of us who have worked in the social media space that started out creating the content, pushing send, holding the iPhone, creating actually doing it. It's not easy to step away and not be the person creating everything or pushing send and everything. And so like especially for you who you were doing the stories and still are doing a lot of content yourself, and to be able to step back and say I hire this person, I'm working with this person, I trust this person, and they can they can do it themselves too. It's a big lesson to learn for sure.
No, it's to be honest, it's just to continue on this, is one of the first things I did was to give full control away of our social media channels, and specifically our Instagram page of the agency. It was like, okay, give it to someone else. I don't even have the password. Just do whatever you want, yeah. I'll be here watching, but do whatever you want, okay? I don't want to post. I don't want to be busy with it, with the captions, because most of the times they would just come to you because they see you as some sort of expert. But it's like, okay, it's just a caption. So do whatever you feel. If it's really really bad, or if it's improvable, let's say the better word, if it's improvable, then I will say something. Or if there's a mistake, I will raise my hand, because at the end of the day I see everything. But I believe that people need their space to grow as well, and to make those mistakes, because I also made those mistakes in the beginning. So why not?
That's a great one. All right, number 7 for you, Aviv. This is gonna be an interesting one. Tell me, besides the social media apps, don't say like Instagram or TikTok, or besides those apps, what's the most important app that you use to do your job, whether it's a mobile or desktop?
Most important app. I think it's Greenfly. I think it's Greenfly. I think it's Green. I think it's Greenfly. I use Greenfly a lot. I think it's a great tool for the pictures, and as a storage, and like we work a lot with the tagging and the tagging of content. So it's you get a good overview.
Well, your check
Using that app.
Your check is in the mail. Like that's all. Oh, that's good to know. But yeah, getting access to the content in real time, and also being able to shoot content and give it back to the teams and clubs and players is super important. So glad to hear it. I will pass your compliments on to my bosses.
100%.
All right, it's time for our food question, Aviv. Always love the food question. Maybe I'll add a bonus to this one as well. Tell me the best meal to get in Barcelona and where to get it. And then also, since Amsterdam so well, tell me the best meal to get in Amsterdam and where to get it. So we got two cities here. Where do I get the best food?
Okay, so Barcelona. Okay, I need to be careful here that I don't forget anyone. But I think probably the best food is in restaurant Gaudim, which means in Catalan, let's enjoy. So you come in there, and I think for the football or sports lovers, you have like the full walls are like covered with football jerseys of players who ate there, or didn't eat there, but just sent their jersey through some connection, which is like a nice plus. But the food is amazing. Like they have very very good rice, which is paella basically, popular dish for tourists. Amazing desserts, good everything. Like just a good experience altogether.
All right, sign me up. And how about if I go visit you in Amsterdam? Where are we going?
So then I would go for this Italian restaurant called Pizza and Co. Just really, really good. I eat there like a few times a week. It's just good pastas, good pizzas. I don't eat pizzas every day, but just the pastas I do, which is just really nice. We in Netherlands we don't really have Dutch food, we have some Dutch sweets, but we're we're not known for our culinary achievements. So we have to look at other cuisines, and Pizza and Co is an Italian one, very good Italian restaurant.
All right, so I'll go to Amsterdam. We'll get some Dutch food for dessert, maybe. And
Yes, a stroopwafel.
there we go. That sounds good to me. All right, number 9. Coming to the end here with Aviv Levy of Double Tap. This is gonna be an interesting one. You've been all around the world. You certainly work in football primarily. So tell me though, the most recognizable non-football athlete in the world.
Man, I just love Steph Curry. It's something. Yeah, it's something. It's just a feeling. It's just a feeling. I'm not gonna enter in debates if he's like the best or one of the best, or if he's top 5 or he's top 10. I just love him. I love everything. I love his aura. I love obviously his skills, his shooting, also what he represents, how he is as a leader. Um, he's like to me like also the fact that he's not like ultra physical is also something that I really like, because in football, like I'm a Messi guy, so I like Messi's flabbergasting at me every time I watch football, and that's what Steph Curry does to me when I watch basketball. So never fails to amaze me.
So you think you walk down the street in Amsterdam, you show people a picture of Steph Curry. You think out of 10 people, how many people do you think would recognize him? 1, 2,
3, maybe.
Yeah.
3. He would definitely be. He would be fine. He would be fine walking around the streets, having a chill time. Maybe I think in an hour, maybe like 10 people would stop him for a selfie, which is okay. No, and I think in the States he cannot really walk on the streets. Yeah. So if it's LeBron, it's a bit different, of course. But Steph is amazing.
And yeah, if Leo Messi tries to walk down the street pretty much anywhere in the world, it's going to be tough for him.
Very tough. Very tough.
All right, last one for you here, Aviv. This might be the hardest question of all. In 2026, the Men's World Cup winner will be.
Ooh, that is a hard one. That is a hard one because most of the European teams just closed cycles, so they did get significantly worse. I feel like all the good players are really old. If I would have to pick one, maybe Portugal. Either Portugal or Brazil.
Okay.
I feel like people just always say Brazil just for the fun of it.
Always.
And it's never Brazil. Yeah, either Portugal or Brazil.
I mean, I always, as a U.S. fan, I mean, the Orange, the Dutch team is always tough too. So we'll see.
Yeah, they're tough, and we knocked out the States in the round of 16, but the team is just not as good, and I don't see any big prospects coming up for the next 3 years as well. So it's going to be a tough one, unfortunately. But I think Portugal is like an exciting bunch of young players with Rafa Leao, Bernardo Silva. It's a tough one. I would say France, maybe France could be an obvious one, but I feel they will lack some leaders in 3 years. So it's a very young squad again. Obviously Mbappe wants revenge again, but yeah, who knows?
We will watch for it, and hopefully you and me can grab a beer because it'll be out here in North America. And
100%. I'll be out there. Hopefully.
Oh yeah, can't wait. All right, Aviv, had a lot of fun with our set plays. You scored tons of goals. Now it's your chance to take over the podcast and tell us your social media all-star to follow. Just tell us who they are, what platform they're on, and why they're worth following.
Okay, so I'm gonna go one, which I wouldn't consider like a self-promotion. But now I don't know when this podcast will air, but I'm going to recommend, as it's the Women's World Cup now, I'm going to recommend like a female creator that is with Double Tap at the moment, and her name is Mercedes Roa. She's a Mexican creator, super big on TikTok, like close to 10 million followers.
Wow.
And really makes relatable content. So tutorials, everyday tutorials for everyone. Her skills are amazing, and she's also like really cool and friendly in front of the camera, and she's becoming really big, not only in like Mexico and the States, but also globally. So Mercedes Roa, wants to watch.
That's awesome. We will link up her handle in the show notes, and we'll watch out for her throughout the Women's World Cup and beyond. And then how about you, Aviv? Where can we find you, as well as all things Double Tap on digital and social and web?
Yeah, so LinkedIn, Aviv Levy Shoshan, on Instagram, just Aviv Levy, and you should be able to find me. That's where like probably the two platforms I'm most active on. And Double Tap as well. Double Tap on LinkedIn, with a nice black center circle logo, and as well on LinkedIn. Sorry, on Instagram as well. Double Tap. So, yeah, make sure to check us out and drop a follow. Would be highly appreciated.
Oh yeah, follow along. Aviv and his team do great work. Aviv, you do great work yourself, and had so much good knowledge and insight for us today. And cannot thank you enough for coming on the podcast.
No, 100%. Thanks for having me. I really appreciated it, and also your preparation, and enjoy listening to your podcast. And yeah, pleasure having me. And as you said, like in when I'm in the States or you're in Amsterdam, let's grab a beer.
So good chatting with Aviv Levy, head and founder of Double Tap, as well as a host, social content creator for AFC Ajax. Just cannot thank him enough for coming on the podcast today, sharing his great experience, great wisdom and insight. Just could really pick his brain all day and talk about everything under the sun in this greater social media space. Really cool to learn from him. Cannot thank Aviv enough for coming on the pod today. But that'll do it for this episode of the Digital and Social Media Sports Podcast. Thanks again for listening. As always, I'm your host, Neil Horwitz. You can find me on Twitter/X at NJH287. Also on LinkedIn. Visit the website, dsmsports.net, and subscribe on your preferred podcast platform so you don't miss an episode. Until next time, this is Neil Horwitz signing off for the Digital and Social Media Sports Podcast.